Hello everyone, you're watching the channel Stories of Our Life. Friends, make yourselves comfortable. I wish you to truly enjoy listening to this life story.
He's trying to breathe on his own. You can turn the machine off slowly. He felt an unpleasant pain in his wrists and tried to move them, but couldn't. Quiet, you'll rip out the system again. White light, white ceiling. I heard a strange light flicker over my head. I hear a rumbling noise from somewhere below. The flickering lights stopped. The world stands still. The pain in my hands again. A squeak, harsh and unpleasant. Shut down the system. That's enough. We're going to overflow. The voice sounded familiar. Where had he heard it and why did his hands hurt so much? There's that squeak again. He was so disgusting. Why couldn't anyone make it quiet? It was as if he were falling into a dark pool and then coming up again. The darkness was replaced by a stabbing light. And that pain. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't. It hurt so bad, my head is splitting apart. Patient Liam Saunders, 29 years old. Craniocerebral trauma, thoracic spinal fracture. There's that voice again. So familiar, reminding him of something or someone. Sometimes he had dreams. Sometimes he dreamt of a young woman. He could clearly distinguish the features of her face, her huge gray eyes with brown streaks. A lock of brown hair protruding from beneath her white cap. How tired she was. And how sad her eyes are. Liam. Liam. Can you hear me? No, he's not dreaming about her. She's right next to him and she's calling his name. Squeeze my hand, if you can hear it. He strained his palm and felt his fingers move. Why is it so hard? Why does it feel like every cell of his body weighs several tons? The woman smiles. Her eyes remain just as sad. But what a charming smile she has, and so familiar. Good. Very good. You're on the mend. There's that darkness again. Only now it pulls him in completely, leaving him no chance. He tries to cling to the light, clutching his unruly fingers and falling. And his fall never ends. Liam spotted her as soon as he entered the cafe. He didn't understand what it was about this girl himself, but it seemed to him that she glowed like a star in the night sky. A star in the night sky. To think what a cliché. But it was the thought that first occurred to him. There was nothing else. There was no one else around, though the cafe was crowded that Friday night. Just her. Look at her, Liam, he poked in the side of Gary, his friend and colleague with whom he had come to celebrate the award. Where? Gary didn't understand, there's a lot of pretty girls here. Right over there, Liam nodded toward the table where she was sitting. Yeah, she's all right, Gary said indifferently, so we were going to have a drink and relax, not get to know each other, as I recall. Which one did you like, by the way? There's two of them sitting over there. There were indeed two girls sitting at the table. But Liam didn't even notice the other one at first. All he saw was her, the beautiful blonde in the red dress. The girl in red, like in the famous song. Yes, she was talking to an unassuming brunette with a short haircut and long bangs that almost covered her face. But Liam wasn't interested in the brunette. The blonde one. The pretty one. Gary, I have to meet her. Liam tucked the collar of his favorite plaid shirt like a straight-A student being called to the blackboard. No. If I miss out, I'll never forgive myself. Believe it, no? Gary rolled his eyes. Come on, then. I'll take the brunette, then. But mind you, I liked the blonde one better, too. If she prefers me, don't be angry, laughed Gary. They walked toward the table where the girls were sitting. As they got closer, Liam was completely speechless. She was even prettier than he thought at first, huge blue eyes, long eyelashes, a straight thin nose, and high cheekbones. And she was somehow magical, all unusual. It was like everyone around her was just people, and she was the heroine of some cool movie. How am I supposed to fit in? Noticing his friend's confusion, Gary decided to take the initiative. Girls, are we intruding? He muttered, smiling his most charming smile. The blonde looked carefully at the boys. The brunette, on the other hand, threw a quick glance at them and declared, "You're in the way. We wanted to sit together." "What if we bought you a cocktail?" said Liam, who kept his eyes on the blonde's beauty. No, he certainly couldn't leave. He'd do anything to get to know her. What cocktail? He could give her his card and his password and his apartment keys right now. And anything else she asks for. His father, a prominent historian, had once taught him never to miss a chance. He got everything in his life too late. He bought a car, and was immediately driven to the state, bought an apartment for his large family, while his children moved to different cities, retired to live and enjoy life with his beloved Rebecca, who gave him 3 children, but his wife was gone a year later. So Liam, who had learned his father's words well, was in a hurry to live, breathing and working his life to the fullest. He kept dreaming of meeting the one and only girl destined for him. For some reason he thought it was her. Thanks, but no, the brunette frowned, we really wanted. Sharon, what do you want? The blonde shrugged, if you want, have a seat. Liam flopped down in the chair next to the girl of his dreams. Gary smiled triumphantly and sat down at the table as well. So you're Cynthia, then? Gary turned to the brunette, did I get that right? Right, she sighed. Cynthia. I'm Mrs. Cynthia to you. That's harsh, Gary laughed. Cynthia, what can I get you? What's your name? Liam asked the blonde. I'm Liam. Hi, my name is Sharon. The beauty sipped some wine from her glass and smiled. A pleasure. Liam's heart began to race. God, what a beautiful name she had. That voice. The sound of her voice was like the taste of a ripe cherry, perhaps chocolate-covered, and a little bit of cognac, sweetly bitter tart. Liam could even taste it on his tongue. The voice was magical, and so was she. Sharon, would you like some champagne or something? Liam shifted his gaze to Cynthia, who was looking at him with obvious displeasure, but he didn't care at all. Well, really. It's just the 2 of us, Sharon, he said. And why refuse to meet interesting young people? Sharon smiled even more charmingly than before. I think you and I have talked it over, Sharon. All right, Cynthia sighed, shaking her long bangs, since the evening is already hopelessly ruined, let's have some champagne. Naturally, Liam chose the most expensive champagne, hoping to impress Sharon, and he seemed to succeed. Where do you work? She asked, slowly drinking her drink and looking up at him from under her long dark lashes. Apparently you're doing quite well. Quite. Liam nodded confidently. I work in a car service, but that's for now. We're about to start our own business. Aren't we, Gary? We are, Gary affirmed. Why isn't everyone still going? Asked Cynthia skeptically. Liam wished that Cynthia would disappear. I wish she'd go dancing or something. He kicked Gary's foot under the table, maybe he'd get his hint. He and Sharon needed to be alone together. But Gary didn't get the hint. It is difficult to open your own business, and you need money. You need money. And there's no money because you spend it on champagne, Cynthia continued. Sharon laughed. Yes, men these days rarely know how to manage what they earn. Liam felt like slapping Cynthia with something. Now she also made him look like a complete idiot in front of Sharon, who only knows how to go places like this and waste money. We don't go out that often, believe me, Liam countered, but they gave me a good bonus today. I don't usually have time because of work. Sharon casually moved closer to Liam, and the sweet scent of her perfume hit him. That's good, she whispered. I love men who work hard. Cynthia, shall we dance? Suggested Gary. Liam mentally thanked his friend and looked at Cynthia hopefully. I don't want to, she shook her head. I want to relax and talk to my friend, and you come along and ruin it. You've got a tough one, Gary spread his hands and smiled at Sharon, such different girls and your friends. just amazing. Yes, she is, Sharon agreed, but don't mind her, Cynthia has the kindest soul. Sharon, I'm tired, I want to go home. She stood up and took her bag off the back of her chair. Liam got scared. Would she really just pick up and leave right now, and not even leave him her phone number? But for Sharon, apparently, the evening was just beginning. You go, she nodded to her friend, you have to work early tomorrow, and I'm going to stay a little longer. Sharon. Cynthia rounded her eyes, maybe it's better if you. Sharon, I'll call you when I get home, Sharon interrupted her. It's okay. Let me walk you out. Gary also stood up and politely gave Cynthia a hand, at least to the bus stop. The girl threw him a sultry look. Okay, I don't think I have much choice in the matter, let's go. Gary and Cynthia headed for the exit. Liam grinned. She really is a harsh friend, not like you at all. It's her job. Sharon moved even closer to Liam. You have to be tough, or you can't be. Is she a cop? The boy asked playfully. No, worse, she's a nurse. Sharon leaned back in her chair and stretched. The sight of her slender figure took Liam's breath away. And you? He asked. And me? I'm just a secretary in a firm. She shook her head, nothing much. I'm just a paper boy. I'm terribly tired of it, but what can you do? I don't know how to do anything in this life. You don't have to, Liam gently touched her arm, pretty girls can just be. Do you think I'm beautiful? Asked Sharon. Liam only nodded in response, and she stared at him with her bottomless blue eyes. He felt as if he suddenly couldn't breathe. They spent another couple of hours at the club, drinking and dancing and talking. Liam couldn't get enough of her. He had never seen a prettier woman. Everything about her seemed perfect to him, her eyes, her figure, her smile. He asked if he could walk Sharon home, and she said yes. I thought you had a car, Sharon said as they stepped outside. Well, you do work in a car service, after all. I do, Liam admitted, but I'm a pedestrian today. I did intend to have a few drinks, after all. Makes sense, she agreed. Do you want to take the long way or the short way? And he chose the long one. If there was an endless road, he would take it, too, just as long as he didn't have to part with Sharon. And tell me about yourself, Liam asked. Sharon, I don't know anything about you, only that you work as a secretary. I went to school, I lived with my mom, then I moved to the city and went to university. Everything like everybody else. And then work started. That's pretty much it. I thought you were a model or an actress when I saw you, Liam confessed. Why? She mimicked surprise. What makes you think that? Well, it's just that you're the most beautiful woman I've ever met. I can't help telling you that, he admitted. Sharon laughed softly. You flatter me. Really? If I never see you again, I'll think I've lived this life for nothing. He looked at Sharon hopefully. Please, give me your number and agree to a date. Just like that? A date, she wondered. Why wait? Asked Liam sincerely. You're attractive. I'm kind of good looking, too. That's why we should try it, shouldn't we? Sharon raised both palms in the air, demonstrating that she was giving up. Okay, I can't resist that kind of pressure. Write down the number. She went into the entryway, leaving Liam alone. Only now did he realize that he was in one of the most prestigious neighborhoods in the city. Not everyone could afford an apartment here. I wonder if Sharon makes that much money. What if her parents bought the apartment, though? He didn't want to think about where Sharon got her luxury apartment. He wanted to think about her, how beautiful she was, what a sweet laugh she had, her eyes as blue as the sea or the sky. After walking a little away from Sharon's house, Liam dialed Gary's number. What? The friend asked without saying hello. I'm home now, I went to bed. Because I'm in love, said Liam. I've never seen a girl like her in my life. I like everything about her. Get ready for the wedding. You'll be the best man. You're something else, laughed Gary. I think you had one a month ago. I can't remember the name. I think it was Mary. Before her it was Karen or Jessica. No, Gary, the search is over, Liam smiled, only Sharon now. But she's really good, Gary admitted. I'm sorry, I wasn't the first to notice, but the code of manly honor doesn't give me the right to take her away from you. Just try it, Liam threatened, I won't let it go unpunished. What about Cynthia? Cynthia who? Gary wondered. Well, she's a friend of Sharon's. The dark one, the weird one, Liam reminded him. Oh. Yeah. She's really strange, Gary yawned into the phone. I walked her to the bus stop. She called a cab and left. Maybe she's a lesbian. You think that if a woman didn't want to talk to you, she's a lesbian? Liam chuckled. Yeah. Gary certainly can't help his self-confidence. Who knows who she is, Liam? She's kind of uncommunicative. Come on, see you tomorrow. I'm sleepy, Gary yawned again. Good luck with your Sharon. Liam flew home to his rented apartment as if on wings. The streetlights melted like candles in the warm evening fog after the recent rain. In spite of the dank weather, he felt joy in his soul. Before his inner eyes stood Sharon. What a color red suited her. The bright girl. She should wear such things. When she became his wife, he would be the envy of everyone, even Gary. Though Gary was immensely popular with women, tall, pumped up, dressed well. But someone like Sharon didn't just need a good-looking guy, she needed someone special. Liam was sure he could be that special. Why not? He's 28 years old, he makes good money, he's about to open his own business. He didn't need the money. He has a car, albeit on credit, but a pretty good foreign car. By the time he is 30, he will have an apartment. Everything would go much faster, of course, if he didn't have to help his sisters. Although his father left his children a good inheritance, but money tends to run out. Especially if spent unwisely. It is this very reason, apparently, and the sisters was not endowed. But it can't be helped. You can't choose your family. It's all right, for Sharon's sake he will work even harder. Such women deserve only the best, diamonds, fur coats. He was ready to provide all these things for her. I wonder why Sharon is friends with this Cynthia. Well, she's a gray mouse, nothing special. He didn't even notice what this Cynthia was wearing. Maybe it's true that bright girls choose unassuming girlfriends to look even better in front of them. But he didn't want to think of Sharon that way. No, she couldn't be like everyone else. And anyway, why think of Cynthia, who had also blatantly turned Gary down so rudely? She could at least have been polite. She could have used it, by the way, with her looks. He got home, took a shower, and flopped down on the couch. He was terribly tired, but he couldn't sleep. He thought about Sharon. What could he do to win her heart? Now there was only her. Dana, Cassie, Lily, Magoo, who else was there in his life? All of them had been relegated not even to second, to third place. Liam was determined then that he should marry Sharon, no matter what it cost him. He called her the very next day. He thought long and hard about when to dial her number, early in the morning? No, that's not right. He might distract her from her work or wake her up altogether. What if she had the day off? In the afternoon? At lunchtime or maybe in the evening? At first, he decided to call at 8 o'clock. Why, it's the perfect time. But eventually he couldn't resist and dialed Sharon at noon. Hi, he said into the phone, do you remember me? Of course, she replied, such a spectacular man anyone would remember. That's nice to hear, smiled Liam, don't you want to get together tonight? We'll go out. Where do you want to go? Sharon wondered. Well, I love Japanese food. If you can find a good place, I'd be very happy. I will, promised Liam, who knew as much about Japanese food as he knew about classical music, that is, nothing. The day was drawing to a close. Time and again Liam surfed the internet for addresses of good Japanese restaurants, but he kept coming back for more and more disappointments, be it the layout of the dining hall, the menu, the location. He didn't even notice Gary coming up to him. Why are you so brooding today? You are not yourself, his friend asked. I invited Sharon to a restaurant. I don't know which one. I need Japanese, replied Liam. That was quick of you to take the bull by the horns, Gary grinned. Go to Sushi Extra. I took my Jill there. She loved it. You think? I wanted to find something cooler. Liam, don't be crazy, Gary advised. Why don't you take her to Tokyo in your private jet to impress her? All right, let's go to your Sushi Extra. Liam slipped his phone into his pocket. I'm worried about something. It's the first time it's happened to me, really. Well, it's love, Gary declared. Come on, good luck, Romeo, and ask for this Cynthia's number. Did you like her after all, though? Queried Liam. I thought you said she was ugly and rough. So that's the thing, Gary shrugged. You know, just some excitement. I've never had a girl blow me off like that. She looked at me like I was nothing. Okay, I'll ask, Liam promised. Sharon really liked the restaurant. But she said she had been here many times before, and Liam was saddened. He had hoped to impress Sharon. But other than that, it went perfectly. She looked wonderful. This time Sharon wore a black dress. It was simple, but it emphasized the advantages of her figure, which already seemed perfect to Liam. She let her hair down, and all night Liam fought the urge to run his hand through it. And she smelled wonderful. Liam had never before noticed such wonderful perfume on a girl. He offered to walk her home again, and she agreed. When he reached her doorway, Liam remembered Gary's request. Sharon, that's Cynthia, you know, my friend liked her, and he asked for her number. Sharon looked at Liam in surprise. Cynthia? Wow. She's not very sociable around here. How did she manage? Well, that's how it happened. Liam threw up his hands. That's just the kind he likes. Oh, I wouldn't advise it. Sharon looked away. She's got a little thing about men. I can tell in advance that she'll blow your friend off. Tragic love story, asked Liam. Well, sort of, replied Sharon vaguely. She'll swear at me, of course. The girl dictated Cynthia's number and smiled flirtatiously. I hope you're not looking for a backup for yourself. If I find out, I'll never forgive you. I don't need her, exclaimed Liam. I've already met the best girl in the world. The others don't exist for me anymore. I hope this girl reciprocates your feelings, Sharon smiled as she stood up on tiptoe and kissed him on the cheek. That's it, I have to go.
Bye.
Liam flew home like he was on wings. She kissed him first on the second date. Definitely, soulmates exist. She feels it, too. It remained to prove to her that he was the right man to make her happy. They started seeing each other 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes they just drove around town in Liam's car, sometimes he took her to restaurants. He even gave her a gold ring. It was modest, with a small emerald. Fortunately, she accepted the gift. He was embarrassed by the fact that she had never agreed to visit him or invite him to her place. But Liam chalked that up to her natural modesty. Surely she just didn't want to rush things, that was normal. Besides, why rush? Sooner or later, everything that should happen between a man and a woman will happen. They kissed a lot. It was passionate, self-absorbed. Her kisses made him dizzy and his heart pounded like crazy. But they didn't go any farther than that. Though Liam certainly wanted it more than anything else on Suzanne. Gary, meanwhile, had decided to call Cynthia, which made her very unhappy. But his charm finally paid off and Cynthia agreed to meet him after work. How was it? Liam asked after their meeting, still as rude as ever. Nothing, we've dealt with more than that. Gary turned up his nose. She was a bit wild at first, of course, but then she seemed okay. I envy you, though. She's nothing like your Sharon, of course. You can't compare Sharon to anybody, declared Liam. There's no one in the world better than her. One day, when Sharon and Liam once again decided to go for a drive around town, the girls suddenly suggested, listen, why don't we spend the weekend together? I know a great little place in the country. You can rent a cabin there. Liam couldn't believe his ears. Sure, how could I refuse? Saturday morning they arrived at the place. Liam rented a house for two. It was set on the shore of a picturesque lake. "Have you been here before?" he asked. "Oh, really? It's great and the air is so thick you can't get enough of it." "Yes, I have," Sharon nodded. "I went with a friend." "Cynthia," Liam clarified. "You think I can't have any other friends besides Cynthia?" Sharon shrugged her perfect shoulders. "No, with another friend. Look, darling, take a little walk. I want to get cleaned up, and I have something for you. Give me 15 minutes. Liam was surprised. "What's the surprise?" Sharon frowned her eyebrows. "Well, tell you everything. Come on, out you go." The young man obediently walked out of the house and sat down on the bench outside the porch. I wonder what she wants to see him with. Would the thing he had been waiting for happen? The phone beeped in his pocket. A text message came in from Gary. "She's hot, I'll tell you that." Liam smiled. Apparently, Gary had gotten his way after all. Wasn't it surprising? Too bad about that Cynthia, of course. She doesn't know that she's just another victory for Gary. But why pity her? Doesn't she realize it herself? She's an ordinary girl, and he's a real hottie. Back in college, all the girls chased Gary. Even the English teacher had a crush on him. Liam, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky. He was tall and even handsome, but thin as a skeleton. His clothes hung on him like a hanger. Why would he gain weight? He lived alone then, moonlighting, eating dumplings and instant noodles. He decided that he would achieve everything on his own, without anyone else's help. Now he works out, goes to the gym. He even grew a small beard to make him look respectable. Liam thought back to his college days and chuckled. Yes, he looked miserable. It was probably for the best. He'd realized then how important it was to take care of himself. And now the long hours spent in the gym were paying off. He could afford to date a girl like Sharon. He would not be ashamed to take off his shirt in front of her, if of course he had such an opportunity. So far the kissing had been as far as he could go. "Liam," Sharon called out. He jumped up from the bench and ran into the house. His palms were sweating with impatience. Sharon was sitting in an armchair with her leg over her head. She was wearing a black silk robe. Her blonde hair was loose around her shoulders. How beautiful she was. Liam's breath was taken away for a moment. Sharon smiled. "Well, there's my surprise." "I don't understand," Liam muttered hoarsely. "You mean?" "Yes, that's exactly what I mean." She stood up slowly, walked over to him and put her arms around his neck. "How much of a drag is that? We're both adults." Liam picked her up in his arms. "You're right, we can't stall any longer," he said, looking into her eyes as blue as the sky. Then they lay on the bed, cuddled together. Liam felt perfectly happy. She stroked his face affectionately, barely touching him with her fingertips. "It was even better than I expected," she admitted. "You did good, you didn't let me down." "Is there anyone to compare it to?" he asked Liam sternly. "Well, we're not little kids," she buried her face in her pillow. "Just don't get jealous, okay?" "I won't. You're just mine now, so there's no point in being jealous." He scratched the tip of his nose. "Sharon, listen, I've been meaning to ask you for a long time, don't you want to live together?" "How frisky you are." She propped herself up on her elbows, looking him in the face. "Already and living together. Maybe we shouldn't be in such a hurry. Besides, there are some factors." "What factors?" he asked, and his relaxation was lifted like a hand. "What could get in their way?" "Liam, let's not." She rolled her eyes. "You feel good. I feel good, too. What else do you need?" "I need you to be mine," Liam muttered stubbornly. "You're a medieval bastard." She wrinkled her nose. "What strange ideas you have about life." "Sharon, I really am a medieval bumpkin," he admitted. "I want to take you to my castle, marry you, have children, and not give you to anyone. Do you hear? And I don't understand why we can't do that." She sat up, wrapping her arms around her knees. Liam stared at her skinny back and her blonde, slightly wavy hair. She was silent. "Sharon," he called softly, "don't be silent." She turned to him. "Liam, it's complicated." "Really? You have someone?" He chilled. "Is that what you're saying?" He felt like just getting up, getting dressed, and going home. Of course he did. What was he hoping for? A girl like that just couldn't help but have a crowd of admirers. And he was just one of them. She turned away again, looking out the window. "Liam, I'm married." "What?" he exclaimed. "What do you mean, married? And you're just telling me this now?" "Just now," she nodded. "You listen first, then start judging." "Okay." By the way, that's why Cynthia acted that way the night we met. For her, you see, the sanctity of family ties means too much. Only she doesn't know the whole truth. And I have to tell you because things have gone too far. Do you understand? "I understand," he said quietly. "So what should I know, Sharon?" Sharon married early, right out of high school. She had barely turned 18 when she met Royer. He was only 5 years older. He seemed to her like a grown-up, intelligent and independent man. They met in the most banal way, at a disco. He asked her to a slow dance, gave her a cocktail, and she melted. Royer was handsome, he had a great sense of humor. In addition, he had recently returned from the army, which made Sharon seem like a perfect example of masculinity. Relationship grew quickly. In 6 months Royer proposed to Sharon, and she said yes. Her mother didn't like it, but she gave up. Sharon threatened that if her mother got in the way, she would simply leave home and cut off all communication between them forever. Royer decided to become a businessman. Together with his army friends, he set up his own business, opening a sporting equipment store. He was passionate about sports, so he had an excellent understanding of the goods he was selling. The business was growing. Sharon even had the opportunity not to work. She stayed home, went to beauty salons, and cooked lunches and dinners for her husband. A few years later, she became pregnant and had a daughter named Suzanne. "She's 5 years old now," she said quietly, "and now she's the only meaning of my life. Or rather, was until I met you." Royer became addicted to gambling. He began spending hours at virtual casinos. Occasionally he won, but more often he lost. He was losing quite large sums of money, which took a serious toll on the family budget. Sharon didn't know what to do. At first she tried to talk to him and calmly explain that the casino always stays a winner.
Yeah.
"What about the money I won last week?" Royer asked. "Didn't you use it to buy yourself a new dress?" "Yes, but you lost twice as much today," objected Sharon. "Maybe," Royer said, "but I'll win soon. Mind your own business. You'd better take care of the baby." These conversations were repeated almost daily, escalating into scandals. Sharon was desperate, the business was still bringing in money, but it was becoming less and less. Gradually, the relationship between husband and wife fell apart. "We even sleep in separate rooms," Sharon admitted, "for a year now. Before that, it was once every couple of weeks." He didn't care about that, he left all his emotions in the casino. "I didn't get any." "Terrible," said Liam, looking sympathetically at Sharon, "so why did you put up with it? Why didn't you leave?" "Where to?" she spluttered. "My mother's going to eat my brain. She doesn't even know about Royer's problems. She thinks we're doing great. She'll say later that she warned me, that she didn't like him right away. And I don't have my own place, where am I going to take the baby?" "My poor baby," Liam stroked her on the back, "what a hard time you've had." "I've been patient," Sharon continued. "I thought the baby needed a father, that I couldn't cheat, that I had to carry this cross as long as I had to. I looked for a job. I still wanted to be independent, you know, to get an apartment and go away with Suzanne. And then I met you, and then you know the rest." "Sharon, this is a nightmare." He put his arm around her shoulders and held her tightly against him. "You can't live like this. I know, she replied, what am I supposed to do? I just wanted someone to love me. Cynthia told me you couldn't cheat, that it was bad, that I should get a divorce first and then look for someone else. You shouldn't have listened to her, Liam said, little does she think. Only someone who's been through what you're going through will understand you. I guess, she huddled even tighter against him and sobbed, I'm confused. I don't know what to do at all. Who would want me if I got divorced and was alone with the baby? Liam felt angry. He was angry at the world, at this Royer who had traded his wife for gambling, at Cynthia judging Sharon, at himself for not knowing how to help her. Or does he know? Sharon, he pulled away from her slightly so he could see her face, move in with me. She laughed sadly, how? Right with the baby? You live in a rented apartment and get, sorry, not millions. Not millions, yes, but enough for you and your daughter, he assured her fervently, and we have Gary opening his own auto shop soon. We've got it all worked out, we just have to raise a little more money and we'll be all set, Sharon. Liam, are you sure? She looked at him with such hope that his heart ached. After all, I have a child, it's a big responsibility. I'm sure, he nodded, we can handle anything if we're together. You're funny, she smiled, you know, I think we can do it. I really want to live with you, wake up in the same bed with you, see you every day. I want that, too, he found her palm and squeezed it in his. Sharon, just say yes. I'll do anything for you. I have to think about it, she replied. It's all very, very complicated. The weekend passed strangely. They walked around the neighborhood, swam in the lake, chatted about nothing. But Liam kept asking his question. Will you live with me? I don't know, she answered. This drove Liam to despair. He didn't know what to do, what to say, how to prove to her that he was ready to be a support for her, ready to be a father to her daughter. He came home in a terrible mood. He wanted someone to consult with and, despite the late hour, he called Gary. Gary, I have to talk to you, Liam said briefly. Serious, said Gary. Yes, very serious. Half an hour later, Gary pulled up at Liam's house. He brought several bottles of beer and a snack. Why, Liam asked, watching Gary set the bottles out on the table, do you think it will do any good? It will, Gary opened one bottle and took a big sip, so, come on, tell me what happened there? Liam talked about his conversation with Sharon, about her husband and daughter, and the fact that she couldn't make up her mind about the divorce. Leave her, Gary said confidently, what do you want? You want to raise somebody else's child? She's no stranger to me. I love Sharon, Liam furrowed his brow, I've never loved anyone like that before. You sound like you're a teenage girl, Gary told his friend, you need to think about your future. You need a normal woman, Liam, no kids, no husbands, no problems. Sharon, sure, she's pretty and showy, but what do you need? I need it, Liam replied, I know exactly what I need, Whittick. What a fool, Gary leaned back in his chair, looking at his friend skeptically, you're not even on your feet yet, and you already want a family. You wait at least a year, just when our business will go, we will earn properly. What are you doing? She can't wait. How do I tell her that? Wait another year. Okay, Liam, Gary shook his head, that's wrong, but that's the way you've got it all figured out, I see. Gary laughed, do as you like, since you're so brave. Just keep in mind that it's going to be harder later on. And if you get divorced, she can squeeze the business, and the apartment if you buy it. There won't be a divorce, Liam replied firmly. Still, you shouldn't have picked her, of course. I was disappointed at first that I got Cynthia. But now I've looked at it, you know. Liam, she's not bad. You know, people like her are only tough on the outside, but inside she's soft and kind and bright and cool, and Gary smiled blissfully. Hearing about Cynthia and Gary Liam's relationship didn't make me want to. I'm happy for you, he nodded, so what, you think I should talk her into a divorce? But you made up your mind, Gary shrugged, you do as you see fit. Just don't complain afterwards. I'm going to move in with Cynthia. Wow, Liam wondered, I hope she doesn't have a husband or a couple of kids in the closet. She doesn't have one, Gary nodded. I just kept thinking. Why run after pretty women? A beautiful woman is perfectly fine to keep as a mistress, for fun. And Cynthia cooks well. Her house is clean. She earns money she won't demand. People like her don't demand it. And she looks at me with amorous eyes. It's perfect. That's kind of cynical, Liam looked at his friend surprised. It's like you're picking out a dishwasher or a multi-cooker. There's no cynicism here. I'm just a grown man, Gary retorted, but you're not. He got up and staggered to the bathroom. Opening the door, Gary looked back at Liam. Listen, I think I'll spend the night at your place. I don't feel like driving. Naturally, Liam agreed. For the next week, he persuaded Sharon to leave her husband. She fiercely resisted and said she wasn't ready yet, that she was afraid of the unknown, that she was worried about how her daughter would survive the separation from her father. But Liam was persistent, and Sharon began to agree that divorce would be the best solution. One night she stayed with him for the first time in their relationship. Liam took it as a signal. They were lying on the couch, cuddling. And Suzanne is with who? Liam asked. Her father? No, I left her with a friend, replied Sharon. I don't trust Royer. You never know what's in his head. He's a sick man. He'll get carried away with his games and forget about the baby. I certainly won't forget her. Liam kissed Sharon on the top of her head. Trust me, and I'll be a good father. I know, Sharon stretched her whole body. I've made up my mind, Liam. I'm ready to move in with you and divorce Royer. I can't live like this anymore. I feel disgusting, like a woman of easy virtue. You're not, he said quietly, you're the best in the world. 2 days later, she had already moved in with Liam and her things. He met her daughter. Suzanne turned out to be nothing like her mother. She had dark brown hair, dark skin, and brown eyes. She looked at Liam with a mixture of fear and mistrust. In the evening, Sharon put her daughter to bed in the living room and came into the bedroom, where Liam was already waiting for her. How is she? She asked him. Is she settling in? She'll be fine. She sat down on the edge of the couch. Sure, she's a little scared, but she'll figure it out. I'm more worried about Royer. He was furious. I don't want him to do anything. I'll work it out, Liam promised her. Royer called him the next day. Liam didn't know how the man had gotten his number. Before he could ask, Royer was yelling into the phone. You bastard. You two deserve each other. Do you have any idea who you're messing with? One more word and you'll be in trouble, Liam firmly promised. I'll have your child taken away from you, Royer threatened. She has no right to take her away. That's my daughter, and I won't give her a divorce. I'll get you out of the ground, do you hear me? Everything you will give, everything you have to do, you will do, said Liam and hung up. Liam decided not to tell Sharon about Royer's phone call. There was no point in upsetting her. She was upset enough as it was, but Royer had called Sharon, too. In the evening, she told Liam about it in a trembling voice, with tears in her eyes. I shouldn't have done that, she said. He won't give me any peace. What if he takes my baby away? No, he won't, my love, Liam answered. He'll never lay a finger on you. Believe me. Soon the divorce was finalized. Liam met Royer in court for the first time. To his surprise, Sharon's ex-husband was remarkably quiet. Apparently, he decided not to resist fate and accept his wife's decision. The divorce went without any problems. Royer agreed to pay Sharon half of the price of the apartment that was bought during the marriage and had no claim to Suzanne's upbringing. He only wanted to be able to date her without any restrictions. Sharon agreed to this. Although Liam hoped the little girl would see her father in Paris. After the trial, Royer asked Liam to step aside for a few minutes. A frightened Sharon desperately shook her head. Don't. But Liam nodded. All right, then. Come on, let's talk. They walked around the corner of the courthouse. Royer took a pack of cigarettes out of his pocket and lit up. Will you have one? He handed the cigarettes to Liam. Did you invite me in for a smoke? I don't smoke. No. Royer smirked. I just want to talk, man to man. I'm listening to you, Liam nodded. It's just that if you think you've hit the jackpot, you're wrong. Royer took a deep puff and blew a cloud of gray smoke into the sky. You don't know her at all. Believe me, you don't know her. I know, said Liam, trying to restrain himself. You don't know her. Royer smiled a little wider. I've had it with her. And you're going to have it. I'm just warning you. You don't think she's such an angel in the flesh. I don't want to hear it anymore. Liam turned and walked back to Sharon. It was so good that they had found each other, that he had dared to go up to her and meet her that night. Otherwise she would still be living with that nasty man who put this beautiful girl down for nothing. That's okay. Soon a new life will begin. He, Liam, will be happy with Sharon. It just can't be any other way. She deserves it, and so does he. A new life did indeed begin for Liam and Sharon. Liam began to work with triple energy. He was ready to move mountains for the one he loved. Sharon deserved better, period. It was a pity he only had a rented bachelor apartment. Such a woman should live in her own house, preferably a big one, with luxurious repairs. But Liam believed everything would work out. He needed to work harder. The relationship with Suzanne was getting better. The girl was painfully shy. For the first few weeks she tried her best to avoid her new father, running to her room when he came home from work. But gradually the ice began to melt. Liam bought dolls and stuffed animals for Suzanne, which she accepted warily at first and then happily. The young man realized that he was beginning to like being a father. Together they drew, read books, and on weekends Liam ran around the playground with the girl. Sharon took part in their walks at first, and then began to let them go alone. One weekend Liam suggested that Sharon and Suzanne go for a walk in the park. The weather was perfect, and there was a pond in the park where the ducks lived. Liam figured Suzanne would enjoy feeding the birds from the bridge. Go alone, Sharon flipped to the page of the magazine she was reading after breakfast. I want to rest. Sharon. You've been home all week. Liam squatted down beside his sweetheart. You need some fresh air. Are you insinuating that I don't do anything? She frowned. If that's what you mean, you don't have to insinuate. I'm worried about not having a job myself. I'm living on your full support. No. You what? Liam took her hand and raised it to his lips. I just wanted what was best. No offense, but we'll go. Go, of course, she smiled, instantly exchanging anger for mercy. Just don't buy her ice cream. She's a bit of a cough, I think. Liam and Suzanne went to the park. The girl was delighted at the idea of feeding the ducks and laughed happily as she watched them catch pieces of bread with their beaks. Is Aunt Cynthia coming? Suzanne asked suddenly, looking at Liam with her huge brown eyes. Aunt Cynthia, Liam wondered, and what Aunt Cynthia? Well, Aunt Cynthia, Suzanne wondered, not knowing how to describe the aunt she wanted. Her hair is so long in the front and short in the back. Oh, I get it. Liam picked the girl up in his arms. And why do you ask? Well, she used to sit with me all the time. We used to play with dolls and cars and the hospital, Suzanne went on, twiddling her thumbs, and now she's gone. I miss her. Liam was surprised. He was astonished. Turns out Cynthia used to spend a lot of time with Sharon's daughter. He'd been sure they'd barely spent any time together. At least, Sharon hadn't said anything about it. The hospital was great to play in, sighed Suzanne. We treated the dolls with pills, cut them out of paper and played. And Mommy won't play hospital. Why don't we play with you? Okay, let's play, Liam said mechanically. He hadn't talked to Gary about his personal life in a long time. He was still busy with work. And he was going to move in with Cynthia. I'd have to ask Gary what was going on. Suzanne kissed Liam on the cheek. Now let me go. I want to feed the ducks. How about we get a duckling at home, too? They returned home in the evening. Suzanne was tired from her walk, dozing in Liam's arms. He carefully laid her down on the couch and took the boots off her little feet. Sharon wasn't home. Where could she have gone? Liam went to the kitchen, shut the door so as not to wake Suzanne, and dialed his beloved's number. "Where are you?" he asked. "We're back." "I went out for a while." "I'll be right there," the woman replied briefly. "I'll literally be back in 10 minutes. Sharon arrived half an hour later. She was holding several packages with logos unknown to Liam. "Oh, here. I thought I'd go shopping," she smiled. "I was getting bored." "That's good, of course. Except I told you there's not much money now," Liam frowned, "and we wanted to save up for a house and a business." "It's my money," reminded Sharon, "the money Royer paid out in the divorce. So I can spend it any way I want." "We said we'd put the money aside for the house." Liam looked at the packages and estimated how much the contents might be worth. "The amount came out to be a lot, Sharon, because you agreed to it yourself. I'm entitled to it." Sharon put her hands to her sides. "Are you going to scold me because I just want to dress normally, not walk around in old, worn-out clothes? What can you do if you don't make much money?" Liam became ashamed. He had promised himself that he would be the perfect life partner for Sharon, and now... "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," he said softly. "Sharon, it's just that the sooner we save up for a house, the sooner we can start living the life we dreamed of. And I thought..." "Thought?" exclaimed Sharon. "You thought? You haven't thought of anything. I feel ugly. I have nothing to wear. I'm embarrassed to even look for a job, to go to interviews in these rags. Who's going to hire me?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. Liam felt like slapping himself in the face. He had driven her to it. He could have kept his mouth shut. She was right. He made too little money. He thought they would have enough for everything they needed, but his paycheck was rapidly disappearing. Liam should have done something about his business a long time ago to make enough money for everything. And Sharon could not be reproached. Naturally, a beautiful woman wants to look great. "I'm sorry, baby," he stepped toward her and put his arm around her shoulders. "I shouldn't have." She pushed him away with her palms. "I'll think about whether to forgive you or not. Let me die." That night, for the first time in their lives together, they fell asleep without hugging each other. The next day at work, Liam decided to talk to Gary. "Listen, do you remember when we wanted to start our own business? I think it's time we got a little more active in that direction." "What, are you tired of family life?" Gary laughed. "Is your wife demanding money?" "Why?" Liam frowned. "I need more money. After all, there's 3 of us now, and my sisters need help, and my nieces are going to university for tuition. Sharon wants a new apartment," Gary finished for him, "but I think you're right. It's time to do something, Liam. We're just making plans, that's all. We'll be thinking about it till we retire." Suzanne was asking about Cynthia. By the way, Liam remembered, it turns out she used to babysit her when Sharon was busy. So the girl missed her. Gary scratched his stubbly chin. "Maybe we could go to my parents' house this weekend. We'll roast some meat there, relax. We'll have a good time. You and I can discuss our business plan at the same time. What do you think of that idea, buddy?" "Good idea," Liam patted his friend on the back. "I'll tell Sharon. She'll be glad, I think." The idea of going to Gary's parents' country house shocked Sharon. "What would you do there?" she asked. "The mosquitoes, the heat. I don't eat fried meat at all. Do you know how caloric they are?" "It won't hurt your figure," remarked Liam. "Let's go, honey. Suzanne needs some fresh air." After much persuasion, Sharon agreed to spend the weekend at the cottage. But she demanded that Liam give her a considerable sum for a beauty salon as a moral compensation. Naturally, the man agreed. Saturday morning they drove up to Gary's parents' house. "Shall we go mushroom picking?" asked Suzanne enthusiastically. "I want to pick mushrooms and berries." I'm afraid it's a little early for mushrooms, replied Liam. Maybe there are strawberries already. We can check. Cynthia came out of the house. She waved a friendly hello. Liam was surprised. She had changed a lot in the time since they had seen each other. It was as if her face had become softer, gentler. She's not as ugly as I thought she was when I met her, he thought. Though, of course, it was impossible to compare Cynthia to Sharon. Aunt Cynthia. Suzanne jumped out of the car and ran towards Cynthia. She opened her arms toward her, picking up the girl. She whirled her around her. Cynthia kissed Suzanne on the nose and gently lowered her to the ground. Hi, Cynthia. Sharon walked over to her friend and hugged her and kissed the air near her cheek. Liam had always wondered about this female custom. Maybe they're afraid of ruining their makeup. Hi, Sharon, said Cynthia dryly. Listen, Suzanne, you've lost a lot of weight. Have you been to the doctor? Sharon. Don't you start. She's just growing. Sharon waved her hand. It's just that your job makes you think all people are sick already. Gary came out of the house. He pulled Cynthia toward him and hugged her around the waist. She looked at him with shining eyes. She looked up at him with shining eyes, and he could tell she was really in love with him. And why should he be surprised? She, the little mouse, had managed to snatch up such a handsome man. For some reason it bothered him for a moment to see Cynthia's eyes. He remembered what Gary had said to her. But he quickly dismissed the thought. Well, comrades? Shall we start making kebabs? Gary looked around at the people present. Cynthia has marinated the meat according to some special recipe. It's supposed to be divine. Dibs on the men doing the meat. We have a special talent for it. Really? Someone left sausages on the stove the other day and burned them, laughed Cynthia. That's some kind of male talent, too, I suppose? It's an unfortunate accident. And men's cooking talents are a known pattern, Gary parried. The men began to prepare a shish kebab. They took the brazier and the bucket of marinated meat out into the garden. Sharon and Cynthia sat under the apple tree in the shade. They were assigned to chop vegetables for the salad. Suzanne chased butterflies around the garden. Gary and Liam were discussing plans to open their own car service. So, it's not much money at all, Gary finished outlining his idea. Half is yours, half is mine. The guys are ready to work for us. They're experienced, they know what they're doing. I think it'll be all right. There's not much competition in the area. I like everything, nodded Liam. Of course, you need a lot of money. We'll have to take out a loan. It's up to you. My father promised to help me. Gary carefully put another piece of meat on the skewer. You'll pay back the loan when the profits come in. By the way, that money your Sharon's ex paid. Don't you want to put it to work? I don't, Liam frowned. It's Sharon's money. Okay, I get it. Gary lowered his voice. It's okay. Yes, your money is shared, and her money is hers. Soon the kebabs were ready. Suzanne didn't like the meat. She claimed it smelled like charcoal. The others, on the other hand, ate it up. Liam noticed that Cynthia looked tense. She kept glancing over at Sharon with disapproving eyes. Sharon ignored her, as if she hadn't been there at all. She wondered when they had quarreled. After lunch, Sharon said she was tired and wanted to take a nap. They had to get up early to get to the cottage. Gary volunteered to chop wood for the bathhouse. I'll go to the river with Suzanne then, Cynthia said. Liam, don't you want to come for a walk with us? The man was surprised. Why would Cynthia want Liam to keep her company? He was sure she didn't like him. He was a little confused. Dash a come, said Cynthia insistently. It's very beautiful. You'll love it. Wait. What if I mind jokingly? Gary objected. My woman alone with my friend is not exactly beautiful. We'll try to control ourselves, Cynthia smiled. Come on, Liam. It's not far. 10 minutes later, they were wandering along the road leading to the river. Both were silent. Suzanne, on the other hand, was chatting away. What a butterfly. Oh, and this? What's that bird singing? Are we still going to come here? Really? Finally, they reached the river. Cynthia and Liam sat down on the warm sand. Suzanne ran along the bank, picking up beautiful pebbles. She was not allowed to swim. The water was not yet warm enough. Liam, I wanted to talk to you, Cynthia said suddenly. What about? Liam wondered, is something wrong? Cynthia's brow furrowed vertically. It's about Suzanne. And I've known her practically since she was born and I love her very much. I'm worried about her. I think something is wrong. She's lost a lot of weight and she's weakened. You see, every 3 minutes the girl stops to catch her breath, and she goes to the bathroom a lot. Haven't you noticed that? Liam wondered. Only how would he know how 6-year-old girls were supposed to behave? Maybe it's the norm for them. Sharon doesn't listen to me, Cynthia continued. I'm sorry, of course, but I don't think she was ready to become a mother. Suzanne was raised by her grandmother, by her father, by me. Anyway, I'm sorry, of course, it's none of my business. That's why I thought I'd talk to you about it. What could it be? Asked Liam, anxiously looking at Suzanne, who stopped again, breathing heavily. She's sick with something. We have to check, the woman sighed. You know I work in a hospital and no good doctors. Bring Suzanne, they'll take some tests, the doctor will take a look, a good pediatrician. He's the head of the endocrinology department. All right, Liam nodded. Have you told Sharon about this? I did, replied Cynthia, but she. All right, let's not talk about it. Just do it yourself, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, Liam agreed. I'm sorry, Cynthia, it's none of my business either, but are you and Sharon in a fight or something? Cynthia silently picked a blade of grass and put it in her mouth. Liam realized that she didn't want to answer that question. Well, how can I tell you, she finally said. She and I used to be friends, very close, but then we drifted apart. That's all. Cynthia was obviously not telling him something, but Liam thought it best not to insist. Not that it was any of his business. Suzanne came running over to them. She handed Cynthia a bright red pebble. Look how pretty it is. Maybe you could make a hole in it and wear it around your neck. I think you could, Cynthia twirled the pebble in her hands. Really, it's very pretty. And how did you find it? Well done. Liam noticed that Suzanne was indeed breathing heavily. What if Cynthia is right? Sharon. Come with me, Suzanne grabbed the woman's hand. You're bound to find something beautiful, too. Cynthia laughed and stood up, shaking the sand off her jeans. Let's go. If we find the most beautiful stone, we'll give it to your mother. Okay? Yes. And Uncle Liam, Suzanne nodded. Let's run. Liam looked at Cynthia and suddenly realized that she was, perhaps, beautiful after all. She had lively facial expressions. And when she laughed, she seemed very young. And her smile was charming, and she had dimples on her cheeks. I don't think Sharon had ever played with Suzanne like she did, ran her daughter around like she did, laughed like Cynthia did now. It was evening. The sun was rolling toward the horizon, and there was a golden trail on the river. Shall we go home, girls? Called Cynthia and Suzanne Liam. I'm tired, Suzanne complained. Take me in your arms. Liam obediently lifted the girl in his arms, and she dozed off after a while, resting her head on his shoulder. Make sure you show her to the doctor, whispered Cynthia. Do you suspect something? Asked Liam directly. Cynthia darkened. She has all the symptoms of diabetes. But that has yet to be checked. Don't be frightened before it's time. Okay. When they returned, Sharon was already awake and sitting in a chaise lounge under the apple tree, reading a brightly colored cover detective. Suzanne got off Liam's arms and ran to her mother. Look what I found, she spilled the pebbles right into Sharon's lap. Her mother grimaced. They're filthy. You should have washed them first, the woman snorted. They're not dirty, Suzanne countered. I rinsed them in the river. Well, get your treasures back, Sharon frowned. My sundress is white, you'll make it dirty. Liam noticed the way Cynthia crinkled when she heard her friend say that. He decided to silence the conflict. Shall we go wash together and put them in your purse? He walked over to Sharon and collected the stones in the palm of his hand. Suzanne nodded. She was clearly in a bad mood. Liam felt angry with Sharon. Was it really so hard to play along with a child? The rest of the evening passed pleasantly enough, the bath, the kebabs, the mint tea. Liam even started to think that he wanted to buy a cottage, too. How great it would be to get out into the countryside with the family just like that. He wanted to share the thought with Sharon, but when they went to bed in the room prepared for them, Sharon declared, "No, I don't think a vacation in the country is for me after all." Why not? Asked Liam. The fresh air, the nature, and Suzanne liked it. Sharon grimaced. It's some kind of vacation for retired people. I'd have preferred something else, the sea, for instance. By the way, I haven't been to the sea for a long time. We'll go soon, promised Liam. Gary and I have discussed everything. We'll start working on our business, and we'll have the money right away. And there will be the sea. Promise? Sharon snuggled up to Liam and kissed him on the neck. We will. Yes, he nodded, anything for my favorite girls. Sharon soon fell asleep. Liam lay there thinking about his future. Gary is right, everything should work out. They had both been working in a car service for years and knew the ins and outs of the process. Liam pictured himself as a wealthy man. Sharon will have everything she deserves. And she would be proud of him. But suddenly he was reminded of Cynthia's words. What if Suzanne really did have diabetes? He looked at the little girl asleep in her reclining chair. God. Let's hope she's okay. I wish everything was all right. When had he grown so attached to her? They said it was right that there were no other people's children. But it seemed to Liam that that only applied to women. They had invented the term maternal instinct for a reason. Or maybe he had a paternal instinct. The next day they went to the river again. This time as a group. Then they went for a walk in the woods. Cynthia managed to find a clearing with wild strawberries, which made Suzanne very happy. Sharon made a show of wanting to get home as soon as possible. In the evening, as Sharon and Suzanne got into the car, Liam said, "Goodbye," to Gary as he stood at the gate. Well, friend, smiled Gary, now all that's left is for you to get the money, and let's get started. I talked to my father. He agrees. I will, Liam promised, I will, and fast. True, Liam failed to keep his promise. He took Suzanne to the doctor, just as Cynthia had said he would. Sharon refused to go with him. She said she was afraid of hospitals. No, 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 she said firmly, I'm allergic to hospitals after the maternity hospital. I would faint if I smelled that when I was there. Suzanne underwent tests and the girl was examined by a doctor recommended by Cynthia. A few days later the diagnosis was revealed. Alas, Cynthia was right, the girl had diabetes. The news sent Sharon into shock. She cried, cursing herself and Liam, angry at the world. She's going to be an invalid now. Yes, wailed Sharon, now she will have to be treated for the rest of her life. That's my baby. My girl. Liam could not calm Sharon down. He himself was frightened and didn't know what to do. Next, his only idea was to call Cynthia and talk to her. I see, she said, after listening to Liam, and where is Suzanne now? We took her to her grandmother's, the man replied, Sharon isn't well. I didn't think a child should have to look at that. She's crying, can't calm down. I've been doing all sorts of things. Okay, Cynthia sighed, I'll be right there. An hour later Cynthia rang their doorbell. Liam opened it for her. Sharon couldn't get up. She was lying in bed, crying her eyes out. Well, how is Sharon? Cynthia asked in a matter-of-fact way. Not good, admitted Liam. Should we call a doctor or give her some kind of a shot? Not yet, Cynthia waved her hand, it's a normal reaction. I'll talk to her. Where is she? The women talked for almost an hour. Cynthia explained to Sharon that diabetes was not a sentence, but a way of life, that Suzanne's life was not in danger. Diet, good medication, a healthy lifestyle, everything will be fine. My child is handicapped, objected Sharon, how could I have had such a daughter? Suddenly, Cynthia's face turned red. Her hands clenched into fists. Sharon, what are you thinking about? About your daughter not being perfect? Are you out of your mind? She exclaimed. That's easy for you to say, Sharon groaned, you don't even have children, you're jealous of one, aren't you? Sharon, you know very well why I don't have children, Cynthia replied. Her voice was calm, but her eyes sparkled treacherously. You'll notice I don't bring up the past. Sharon nodded with unexpected calmness. Thank you. I understand you. I'll take your advice to heart. But you shouldn't have gotten involved in all this. Now we have to live with this diagnosis. I wish we didn't know about it. Sharon, you're in shock right now, Cynthia said quietly, you don't know what you're saying. Okay. I probably shouldn't have come. I'm going home.
Bye.
Liam.
Bye.
I'll walk you home. Liam jumped up from his chair and followed Cynthia. Sharon, I'll be right there. When they came out of the driveway, Cynthia stopped and took Liam's hand. Liam, this is serious. I think you're a normal person. Watch how Suzanne eats. And she should take whatever medication the doctor prescribes for her. Okay? Good, he nodded grimly, I'm sorry about Suzanne. She's obviously not herself. So stressed. I've already forgiven her for everything, Suzanne's eyes watered and her voice trembled, but she managed to pull herself together. What matters is Suzanne's health. Call me anytime about Suzanne. Of course. I'll run. Gary's waiting, Cynthia waved her hand and headed toward the bus stop in quick strides. Liam stared after her. I wondered what cat had run between her and Sharon. And that phrase, you know very well why I don't have children, was very strange. Liam went home, intent on figuring out what was going on. When he returned, Sharon was awake. She was lying in bed, looking up at the ceiling. What's going on? Asked Liam. It's about Cynthia. I thought you two were friends. We used to be, she replied quietly, but I can't forgive what she did. I see, but what did she do? Liam sat down on the edge of the bed and stroked Sharon's head. I want to know. Now, that's our business, she cut off. The night you and I met, we decided to talk to Cynthia. But they could because of you. And then I realized it was for the best. If it wasn't for her relationship with your friend, we wouldn't be in touch at all. And yet, what happened? Repeated his question insistently to Liam. Sharon sat up abruptly and crossed her arms over her chest. You want to know what happened? What happened is that she tried to seduce my husband. That's what happened. Cynthia, Liam wondered, she doesn't seem like the type to flirt with men, to be honest. Like you understand much, the woman grinned, she's always liked Royer. I introduced him to her right away. It's my friend from school, after all. It wasn't until after the wedding that I realized she liked him. As soon as she appeared near me, she would immediately start smiling, trying to hug him, take his hand, but I pretended not to notice. Of course, Sharon was silent. Tears streamed down her cheeks again. Well, what could you expect from her? She went on. I tried to understand her. She grew up in a single-parent family, always wished she had something other than her mother's. She wanted a husband, children. And no one really paid any attention to her. So she fell head over heels in love with my husband, and then she also explained her love to him. Can you imagine? And how do you know about that? The man asked. I know. Royer told me himself. We had another quarrel at the time. He said he could have slept with my friend, but he didn't, because he was so noble. But I stopped talking to her. Then Suzanne was born. Things sort of got better, we made up. She pretended to love Suzanne. Probably to visit us more often. And then she started going after him again. So I gave her the brush off. Suzanne missed her, though. I only let them see each other when Royer wasn't around. And then, things fell apart between me and him. I no longer cared. Now you know everything. I never would have thought she was capable of something like that. Liam hesitated, because she doesn't look like the kind of woman who could take a man away from his friend. You don't know much. Sharon turned away from Liam, her chin held up proudly. You know what they say, there are devils in quiet places. Liam believed Sharon. Why would she lie to him? He was disappointed in Cynthia, even determined never to call her again, but he changed his mind. Suzanne was attached to Cynthia, which meant it wasn't worth preventing them from communicating. A couple of months later, Liam and Gary managed to open their own car service. Liam had to take out a loan. Sharon said she would put the money Royer paid her into a separate account. It'll be Suzanne's money, she said, we'll spend it on school or medical treatment. It's not like anyone knows what's going to happen next. After all, she's sick. At first things were not going well, there were few customers, the car service brought almost no profit, everything was spent on payments to the few employees and the rent of the premises. Sharon increasingly quarreled with Liam because he did not earn enough. And she had grandiose plans, so grandiose that in times immemorial it would not have been enough even 4 or 5 years with the obligatory early implementation. Only a woman is capable of such gigantic schemes. A man never looks that far. Liam fell silent, listening to Sharon's every word. You promised you'd take me to the sea, she cried. You promised I wouldn't need anything. Promised you'd build a house, she went on, and then she quieted down and looked at Liam with a sort of hunted look. And what's the result? Liam, we're living in a rented apartment, in debt, with nothing to treat the baby with. Liam was desperate. Things weren't working out the way he'd hoped. Gary was the only one who supported him the best he could. He assured him all he had to do was wait a little longer. Buddy, everybody starts somewhere, Gary said. At first, everybody works at a disadvantage. When we're up and running, we'll be golden. A lot of money was also spent on Suzanne's medications. Liam felt like he was falling into an abyss. Sharon was always dissatisfied. Little Suzanne had to be taken to doctors. Work brought neither joy nor money. The man hoped that things would change for the better in the future, but his hopes faded. The only thing that helped was to talk to Gary, who was much more optimistic and repeated that things would get better. 6 months passed. Liam lost weight and noticed the first gray in his hair. Suddenly, things began to get better, the first income. Not much, but still. And Sharon settled down. As he promised, Liam presented her a trip to the sea. True, he couldn't go himself, he couldn't even take a short vacation. Sharon took Suzanne with her, leaving Liam alone for a week. Upon learning of this, Gary suggested we get together and have a little get-together, just like old times. Let's have a beer, he smiled. Let's talk about life on Friday after work. They went to Liam's, buying a few cans of beer and even a bottle of expensive whiskey on the way. That's just in case, Gary said. They settled in the kitchen. Liam set a rudimentary table, cheese slices, peanuts, dried calamari. Gary opened the first can of beer and, squinting with pleasure, took a huge sip. How good, he stretched out, it's cold, just right. Liam also opened the can and set it in front of him, looking thoughtfully at his friend. I thought it would be easier once we got started, the money would come pouring in. Sharon would finally be happy. But it's not working out. Come on, Gary waved his hand and raised his eyebrows expressively, this is just the beginning. It'll get easier later, so it's all right. When are you and Sharon getting married? I don't know yet, we're not talking about it. Liam twirled the jar in his hands, at least she stopped nagging about the money, that's good. There. Gary held up his index finger and waved it in front of Liam's nose. That's why you shouldn't choose a pretty girl with demands as a steady companion, but an ordinary girl, so that she'd be glad you came home to her and wouldn't demand diamonds from you with diamonds. How's your Cynthia? Asked Liam. He knew that Gary and Cynthia were living together, except that Gary was in no hurry to marry. He said he was waiting for the right moment. That moment, of course, was never coming. Yes, like my Cynthia, Gary confirmed, she's a very good cook. I don't think I've ever eaten like that. They say no one cooks better than Mama. Well, that's not true. The soup, the roast is great. She bakes little one-bite pies that just melt in your mouth. A blissful smile spread across Gary's face. So what are you waiting for? Liam finished his beer, crumpled the can, and tossed it in the trash. You see, I don't see the point in getting married. Gary reached for the second can. Where will she go from me? Will she run away? She loves me, I can tell. What's the point? That stamp in the passport is nothing but trouble. It's not like you're Sharon. She's a noticeable girl. She could be stolen. You stole her from her husband. You don't know who else is coming, do you? You have to get married. Well, there's one more thing. What is it? Liam asked. Well, as you understand, I'm a young man, I haven't got married yet. Remember when we wanted all the girls at the institute? Of course I do. Liam laughed. You said it was stupid to get married until you'd tried every type, Gary reminded him, and I haven't tried it yet, but I aspire to. I met a girl like that the other day. You'd be shocked. She came to us to fix her car. She's blonde, slim, looks like she works out. I got her number. We're going out to dinner tomorrow night. Wait, Liam wondered, what about Cynthia? Gary grimaced and tapped his hand lightly on the table. What's the matter, Cynthia? Are you going to lecture me? Cynthia is for family, for home, so to speak. How I spend my free time is my own business. Well, that doesn't seem right, Liam frowned. He was reminded of a summer day when they, Cynthia and Suzanne, had gone to the river. Cynthia was chasing Suzanne and it was as if she were a little girl herself. Her eyes shone with happiness, and suddenly Liam realized that Cynthia's eyes were green, a rare color and very beautiful. But what did he care about the color of her eyes? Liam, we're adults, he said, and popped a pistachio into his mouth. I haven't promised her anything, not even a declaration of love. So I don't owe her anything, okay? And why are you looking at me like that, judging me or something? Liam was silent. Don't judge. As if I don't remember you having affairs with 2 girls at once, or even 3, Gary went on, I might marry her. The rest is my business. Yes, indeed it is, said Liam quietly, let's talk business. They spent the rest of the evening talking about their car service. Except that Liam kept turning his thoughts back to Cynthia. Maybe she was a bad person, but she didn't deserve to be treated that way. She loves Gary, you could tell she loves him. Her eyes light up when she looks at him. Green eyes beautiful, like young foliage, springtime, lit by sunlight. Sharon returned from the sea 3 days later. She was in high spirits. It was clear that she had benefited from her rest. Suzanne was also happy. She couldn't stop talking about how she had bathed, how she had watched the fish and how she had found a huge shell on the beach. I hope it wasn't the last time, Sharon chirped as she kissed the cheek of Liam, who greeted them at the airport. Remember, you promised? Seeing her radiant face, Liam decided he had to work even harder. He had someone to work for. He's the one who talked Sharon into leaving her husband for him. Which means he must provide her with a standard of living, the very standard she needs. Such a woman cannot live in a tiny 2-room apartment and dress at the market. Soon Liam managed to save some money. Just enough for the first payment on a nice 3-room apartment. Sharon took the news with great joy. Finally, she clapped her hands, a house of my own. I've waited so long for this. Is there nothing else you want to tell me? About what? Wondered Liam. Silly. Sharon hugged him and looked into his eyes. Let's get married. Since you don't dare, I have to propose. Do you really want to? He couldn't believe his ears. Really? In recent months, when he talked about marriage, Sharon had only snorted and claimed to wait until they were on their feet. I want to. She hugged him even tighter. Of course I want to. I love you. Soon they played a wedding, a modest one, for a couple of dozen guests. Liam decided to save some money. Sharon wasn't happy with that decision, but she put up with it. She was the only one who demanded a solid budget for her dress and beauty salon. Liam didn't argue. Sharon deserved to look like a queen at her own wedding. A month after the celebration, they moved into a new apartment. It had almost no furniture, and one room hadn't been renovated. But Liam was pleased. He felt like a real man. He had built a house, had a child. A stranger's child, but a loved one. And Suzanne was already beginning to call him daddy. So the man was sure he could consider her his daughter. All that was left was to plant a tree, and he could say that life was successful. Sharon was happy, too. She enthusiastically began to choose furniture, curtains, and other little things that make a house a home. On this spent impressive sums, which Liam in general was not happy. One day he decided to temper Sharon's insistence, seeing her bring home another package of figurines, candlesticks, and expensive linens. Honey, we can't afford it yet, he said softly. I don't earn that much. Our monthly mortgage payment is high, and Suzanne will need to see a doctor again soon, just in case they prescribe expensive medication. Sharon's eyes sparkled. You mean I'm wasting your money? Are you reproaching me with that? No, I didn't mean that, Liam answered patiently, just let's not go overboard just yet. And what do you consider excesses, may I ask? Sharon frowned and crossed her arms across her chest, as if she were building an invisible defense between herself and her husband. Sharon, you understand perfectly. What is all this for? You bought a candlestick for almost $100, and today this silk underwear. What's it for, darling? Well, think about it. You promised. Sharon stomped her foot. You promised you'd provide me with everything I needed, and now it turns out I can't have anything. Why? Liam raised his voice. Last week was Manicure's beauty salon. I give you money every month just to go shopping. Isn't that enough? I knew it, tears ran down Sharon's cheeks. I knew it would. At least Royer didn't count how much money I spent and on what. And you do. You know what? We'll sleep separately now. There's room now. What's it gonna be, the living room couch or our bedroom? Sharon, why? Liam slapped his forehead. I just wanted you to spend less on nonsense. It's not nonsense to me, Sharon cut her off. She picked up the bags and walked proudly away to her bedroom, remembering to slam the door one last time. After that day, they slept separately. Sharon would not let Liam into the bedroom. And when he tried to talk to her, she defiantly left. She didn't cut back on her spending, though. The only thing that pleased Liam was Suzanne. The girl was sincerely attached to him and shared her joys and sorrows. They often spent weekends together, occasionally in threes when Cynthia joined them. A couple of months after moving into their new apartment, Sharon told her she was pregnant. But we haven't slept together in a long time, Liam began, but when he saw the look in Sharon's eyes, he hesitated. It was before the trip to the sea, she said. I did not believe at first, I decided to wait. I went to the doctor yesterday and he confirmed it. That's wonderful, laughed Liam with joy. I'm going to be a father. To think. Sharon nodded. Yes, you will. I hope the talk of finances will stop now. I'm entitled to my share of the family budget. Of course you are, Liam stroked Sharon's still unsized belly, and you always have, Sharon, forgive me for everything. I'm a fool. I know, Sharon sighed, but what can I do, now that I have? And Liam set to work with even more enthusiasm. Now even more money was needed, mortgage payments, medical treatment, Suzanne running costs, Sharon's trips to the expensive medical center. Liam left for work early in the morning and returned at midnight, falling off his feet with exhaustion. Sharon wasn't happy about it. She kept talking about how she needed her husband's attention and wanted him to be there for her during this difficult time. But as soon as her husband tried to give her more attention, he started bringing in less money, and Sharon was not happy again. He felt like he was caught in a vicious circle, and he hoped things would get easier once the baby was born. And Sharon wouldn't have the energy to nag him and make him feel ashamed. He was ashamed of himself to her for being a bad husband, a bad father, not bringing enough money into the family. This feeling was eating him up from the inside, and he didn't know what to do about it. Soon Sharon gave birth to a boy, whom he decided to name Jose. The baby was born strong and healthy, which pleased his father enormously. Because of Suzanne, he was afraid that their second child would also be sick. He told no one about it out loud, only Cynthia during their rare meetings. She comforted him as best she could. "Understand," she repeated, "it's a lottery. Sharon is being seen at the medical center, she's getting all the tests. In general, there is no reason to worry. And the medicine of today allows you to treat anything. Don't worry, Liam, she'll be fine. Is Suzanne worse because she has diabetes? Do you love her less?" "You're right," Liam said, "but still, until I'm sure, I won't rest." Gary and Cynthia were also married. At their wedding, Liam felt a kind of awkwardness. He was ashamed to congratulate Cynthia, to wish her happiness and many years together, because he knew very well that Gary had cheated on his bride. And she was so joyful, looking at him with such loving eyes. Maybe it is for the best that she knows nothing. She's happy. What more could she want? But he still felt sorry for her, and Liam himself didn't understand why. She wasn't a very nice person herself. She tried to seduce Sharon's husband once before. Cynthia was no angel in the flesh. And Gary might as well calm down. Cynthia did everything to make Gary feel the happiest, maybe he would appreciate her and stop looking on the side. 3 months after Jose was born, Sharon demanded that Liam set aside money for a babysitter. "I'm tired, I don't look like myself," she screamed, "I want to live. I stayed home with Suzanne for a year. I don't want it a second time." "But the baby needs a mother," Liam tried to persuade her, "you're the one feeding him, that's important." "We'll just switch to formula," Sharon declared, "nothing will happen. There's good formula now." So Liam gave up and found a nanny to babysit Jose and Suzanne while Sharon rested. He really felt sorry for her. The labor was difficult, Sharon had to spend almost 2 weeks in the hospital. And he couldn't make her stay home with the baby if she didn't want to. Scandals in their family became more frequent. Sharon was missing the money that Liam had transferred to her card. She was sure he was hiding from her how much he was really getting. And Liam felt himself gradually going crazy. He was no longer happy with his son, no longer as happy as he had been with Suzanne. And he and Sharon slept separately. She simply wouldn't let him in the bedroom and would make a scene when he tried to touch her. After another scandal, Liam couldn't take it anymore and left home. He wandered through the dark streets, not knowing where to go. What was it all for? What was it all for? He suggested that Sharon leave her husband and live with him. What had happened? It was as if she had been replaced. Though only her character had changed. Where had the gentle, tender, trembling girl he had fallen in love with gone? Why was there a grumpy, disgruntled woman in her place? Only her appearance had not changed. Sharon seemed to have become even more beautiful. She spent long hours in beauty salons, exercised. He himself gave her the most expensive membership in the fitness center. Liam saw a brightly colored sign. The bar was open 24 hours a day, that was it. He didn't remember the next few hours. He only remembered ordering the first 3 shots, and then everything got mixed up. Music, some people to whom he complained about life. A man in a vest, patting him on the shoulder and assuring him that women were the trouble and it was advisable to stay away from them. Then he remembered the girl sitting on his lap, kissing him passionately on the lips. As the bar closed, Liam realized he was too damn drunk to go home. He had only one option. He pulled his phone out of his pocket, dialed Gary's number. "Hello," he answered in a surprised voice. "What are you doing, Liam?" "It's night out." "Gary, can I sleep over?" Liam asked. "I had a fight with Sharon, I left home." "Happy family life boring after all," laughed Gary. "I'd take you in, of course, only I'm not home right now. I told mine I was going on a business trip for a couple of days to negotiate." "I'm actually on vacation with Ellie," Gary admitted. "Look, call Cynthia. She'll let you in." "I'll ask. She's understanding. Just don't blab." "Look, about my business trip, fraternally, I ask you to keep it a secret." "Then I guess I'd better get a room," sighed Liam. "No need, I can hear it in your voice that you're very drunk. And Cynthia will put you on some kind of drip. She used to give me one when I was drunk. And everything went away in a jiffy. Call and don't be afraid." Liam hung up the phone and thought about it. Maybe he shouldn't bother Cynthia. And how would he look her in the eye, knowing her beloved spouse had been unfaithful? But he made up his mind. Cynthia answered at once. Gary warned. She also asked him to write to Sharon so she wouldn't worry. Liam texted Sharon that he would spend the night at Gary's house. She answered with a short, "As you know." Cynthia met Liam in the driveway. He literally fell out of the cab into her arms. "My God," she muttered, "you're still awfully drunk." "I'm not quite up to it," Liam replied pessimistically, "but I'd be glad if you'd help me get to the right condition." "I'd rather help you walk to your apartment," Cynthia said. Putting her shoulder to his side, she led him. "Alcoholic," she pronounced. She laid him down on the sofa and brought him some hot tea with sugar, which Liam flatly refused to drink. He had a terrible headache. "I rarely drink," he admitted, "unless it's beer mostly. The last time I was this drunk was when I was in college." "Are you sick?" she asked. "Very sick," he answered honestly. She stood up and walked over to the cupboard, from which she pulled out a plastic box with some kind of medical equipment. "It'll get better." "Liam, aren't you afraid of injections?" "I am." Liam hung his head. "Maybe you shouldn't." "Yes, you do." Cynthia's voice had a menacing tone to it. "You don't have to drink, but you do have to be cured. Hold on, I'll have the drip ready in a few minutes." Liam was already lying on the couch under the four that Cynthia had hung from the floor lamp. He was slowly coming to his senses. "What's in there?" he asked. "Live water," joked Cynthia, "glucose and vitamins." "Yes, you really can't drink," said Liam, turning back against the wall. "What's the matter?" Cynthia continued, gently stroking his head. It felt strange, but I didn't want to stop her. "Poor thing," she sighed. "It's all right, it'll be all right." "Listen, Sharon, I've been meaning to ask, what about you and Sharon?" Liam asked, turning to her and looking into her green eyes. "What happened? Did you really want to steal Royer away from her?" Liam suddenly realized he'd said too much. If he had been sober, he would never have asked that question. But there was nothing to be done. Cynthia was silent, continuing to stroke his head. "I'm sorry," he said, turning to her. "It's just that she told me once." She looked at him without looking away, but her gaze was blank, as if she were not with him now, but immersed in some heavy, unpleasant memory. "I tried to steal Royer away?" she interjected. "An interesting story." "Wasn't it?" said Liam, trying to rise on his elbows, but he got dizzy and collapsed on the pillow. "I'll never drink again." "I swear," said Liam, automatically adjusting the pillow. "You won't drink?" asked Cynthia. "I hope at least you'll keep your promise." "Okay, it's probably not good to say things like that, but since we're having this conversation. And Sharon's version, frankly, discredits me a little. So I guess I'm entitled to tell what really happened. It's up to you to decide who to believe," and Cynthia began her story. She met Sharon in high school, in the 11th grade. Sharon was transferred to their class, and she immediately sat at the same desk as Cynthia. It was hard to imagine them becoming friends. Sharon had wealthy parents, dressed well, liked to show off her new clothes, wore bright colors, and ignored the remarks of her teachers. Cynthia lived with her mother, who was a two-time nurse. Her family barely survived, money was always in short supply. Nevertheless, the girls began to socialize. Cynthia helped Sharon with her homework. Sharon shared her makeup and could lend her a fancy blouse or hair clip. After high school, Cynthia went to medical school and Sharon married Royer. She didn't really want to continue her studies, Cynthia recalled. She said the main thing in life was to find a good man to support her and make her happy. Work does little to cause premature aging. Cynthia disagreed with Sharon's opinion. She dreamed of becoming a doctor, helping people, relieving the suffering of the sick. Salary was not important, the main thing was to be in her place and feel that someone needed her. When Cynthia turned 19, she fell in love. The man she fell in love with was a young doctor whom she had met in practice at the hospital. His name was Luis. He was smart, good-looking, and extremely passionate about his job. Luis intended to be a surgeon. Cynthia felt he was her man. They understood each other, they wouldn't quarrel about the perpetual overwork, the daily shift. What more was needed for a happy family life? One day Sharon had an argument with Royer. At that time Cynthia was already living with Luis. Sharon asked if she could stay with her friend and Cynthia agreed. Well, you can probably guess what happened next, Cynthia smiled sadly. I came back from duty and found them in bed. Wow, Liam shook his head, is she really capable of that? Turns out she is. Cynthia spoke indifferently, but Liam sensed that the memories still hurt her. So he didn't have to figure it out or scandalize her. I just packed my things and went to my mother's. That's all, really. And then Sharon made up with Royer, had Suzanne. And you made up? Liam wondered. Well, yes, Cynthia nodded. Suzanne was sick a lot when she was little. She used to call me and I couldn't say no. After all, she's a child, and Sharon is as afraid of doctors as fire. She needs to be taken by the hand to go to the hospital and take her daughter to the doctor. So, that's how we got back in touch a little bit. I got attached to Suzanne, she was painful. Sharon would call me if anything happened. Suzanne loves you, too, Liam said quietly, she says you're her best friend. I love her, Cynthia said, wiping away a tear, I just have this pathology of having children I can't have. And I've been dreaming so much about having kids. That's probably what Suzanne became to me. Like a daughter. That's why I hang out with Sharon. And I thought you two were friends, Liam said, wiggling the hand that held the four.
Yeah.
It looks like Sharon lied to me. Forget it, Cynthia looked at the nearly empty plastic container of medicine. What happened is what happened. That's our relationship with her. Royer is also in the past. Now there's you, there's your son and Suzanne. Liam suddenly realized he was admiring Cynthia's beauty. There was something aristocratic about her, a thin nose, huge eyes, plump lips. And why did she seem ugly to him? Perhaps it was against the bright, noticeable Sharon. He shivered to himself. Cynthia was Gary's wife, he shouldn't be looking at her. It got better. Cynthia smiled. Something made her face even prettier. Are you ready for a massive dose of another drug? What other drug is that? Liam was frightened. A very effective and potent one, Cynthia winked, strong tea and sugar and probably some eggs and sausages, too. You should eat.
Yeah.
I think I'm ready, Liam smiled, and I'm sorry to have bothered you. That's all right, Gary's friend is my friend, Cynthia replied. Then they drank tea in the kitchen. Liam's clarity of thought was returning, and with it guilt. How ridiculous he must look in Cynthia's eyes. He came in the night drunk and interrogated her, but she opened her heart to him. And he hides her husband's cheating from her. Cynthia talked about her work, and Liam listened with bated breath. How fondly she spoke of the children she was caring for. It struck him that she remembered them all. even the ones she had treated years ago when she first took a job. She remembered the names, the habits, the funny phrases they told her, and Cynthia's face seemed to glow when she remembered the little patients. He suddenly remembered Sharon. What was she interested in life? Clothes, trips to the sea, manicures, and money. Nothing else. Sharon, you're very nice. Gary's lucky to have you, Liam said sincerely. I'm the lucky one, she smiled dreamily. I didn't even think a man like that would pay attention to me. I'm not pretty, you see. Liam was surprised. You are very beautiful. And your eyes are so unusual. Come on, don't, she grinned. You know, when a woman is ugly, everyone compliments her eyes. So I know that trick very well. Liam was embarrassed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I know, she smiled warmly at him and patted him on the shoulder in a friendly manner. Wash up. I'll make a bed for you on the couch. There's a new toothbrush in the bathroom cabinet. It's specially prepared for occasions like this. Liam had trouble falling asleep that night, either because of the drinks or because he couldn't bear to think about Sharon and Gary and Cynthia, who was sleeping peacefully in the next room. Somehow he thought that he would have chosen Cynthia over Sharon that night. Liam returned home in the morning. His wife did not ask where he had spent the night, and he decided not to tell her about it and what he had learned from Cynthia. He realized a strange thing: he didn't care at all. A few days later, Sharon said she had bought a ticket to the sea. Are you going with the kids? Liam asked. No, I want to take some time off, she said. The children will be with a nanny. I hope you won't spare any money for a nanny for your own son. Of course I won't. Liam walked over to Sharon and looked into her eyes. Tell me, what's going on? She shrugged her shoulders in response. Nothing, I just need to rest. You men don't understand how hard it is for women after childbirth. You didn't even want to hire a nanny. I remember. This time Liam decided not to have an argument. He would go on vacation later. Maybe things would still get better.
Yeah.
And there wasn't enough money to go alone, much less with the kids. But it's all right. We'll have to wait. Soon there will be more money, Sharon will be happy, and they will live like before. Sharon was to return from the sea late at night. Liam decided to surprise her. He put the children to bed, ordered her favorite food from a restaurant, bought wine, and set the table. He hoped they could talk, or at least forget all their differences for a while. Liam sat in the kitchen looking at the clock hanging on the wall. In the pocket of his jeans was a velvet box containing new earrings. He'd bought them as a gift for Sharon, spending a pretty hefty sum. Maybe at least that would melt the ice. He still missed the times when she used to look at him with amorous eyes, hug and kiss him when they slept in the same bed. There had been nothing between them for a long time, and Liam found himself staring at other women every now and then. Gary guessed this and hinted that Liam might find a girl to take the edge off. But he didn't want to do that. He was afraid that he couldn't forgive cheating on himself. And Sharon didn't deserve that either. She had recently had a baby. Maybe she was depressed, or maybe her hormones hadn't come to normal yet. Cheating in this situation seemed unseemly to him. He thought of Cynthia again. Did she deserve such a thing? With her love for children, with her gentle, sad smile and green eyes. Why did I get so attached to her eyes? He chided himself. It turns out he is thinking of another girl. And there was no need to hide the fact that his thoughts of Cynthia had not always been decent lately. At the very least, Gary wouldn't be the one to talk about them. But Liam couldn't help himself, consoling himself with the fact that he just hadn't been with a woman in a long time. A car pulled into the yard. Liam turned off the kitchen light and went to the window. It must have been Sharon. He didn't want her to notice him before his time. Let this late dinner be a surprise to her. Liam pulled back the curtain and looked out into the street of their driveway. A foreign car was parked, not unlike a normal cab. Cab drivers did not drive such cars, they were driven by people who had achieved something in life and wanted to show it to others. Sharon got out of the car followed by a full bald man in a white shirt. They talked about something, Sharon smiled, and then she put her arms around the man and kissed him. They stood hugging for a while, then Sharon picked up the handle of her wheeled suitcase and walked toward the driveway. Liam sank into a chair. His heart was pounding frantically. What an idiot he was. He was a real idiot. And Sharon had found one. The key turned in the lock. He heard his wife take off her shoes, go quietly to the bathroom. He stepped out into the hallway. "Hello," he greeted Sharon. She flinched. "Why aren't you asleep?" "Waiting for you," he continued, looking at her with a heavy stare, "and I guess I waited." "You shouldn't have waited," he added. She smiled nonchalantly. "Thanks for paying for the trip. I had a great vacation. I missed the kids so much." "Did you have time to miss them?" she asked. "I've been working all day because you needed the money," Liam groaned. "What's that?" Liam looked at Sharon's hand.
Yeah,
"It's just costume jewelry," Sharon frowned. "I saved money on lunches," she added. "What are you trying to do, interrogate me?" "What do you want to find out?" Sharon asked irritably. "Yes, I bought it. Yes, I wanted it. So what?" "I've seen everything. And I've seen your new man, too," Liam said quietly, "and we have to decide what we're going to do next." "I hope we can do it without scandal," he continued. She stared at him in silence, forgetting to breathe. Liam even felt a little sorry for her. It was frightening to think what thoughts were racing through her head. Finally she spoke. "Yes, I have another man." "And what did you want?" "I left my husband for you. You promised me a mountain of gold, but what have I got?" "Nothing." "And him? He loves me. You see, I need attention," she said in a steely voice, "and you're at work all day." "I worked all day because you needed the money," he replied. "What an idiot you are," Liam scolded himself. "It's all your own fault." "Cheating is always two people's fault," Sharon raised her voice, "so don't pretend that you're the victim," she continued. "Victim? Me?" "Sharon, I'm going to leave now," Liam said in a steely voice, "and in the morning I hope we decide what we're going to do next." "You don't have to come back," Sharon flashed her eyes angrily. "I can do without you," she replied. Liam didn't answer. He just didn't know what to say. He looked at her again. Beautiful, long-legged, slender. How he had loved her once. Why was there no trace of those feelings now? He threw on his jacket and went outside. The cool night air acted as a sedative. Liam went wherever he could. As far away as possible from her, from the woman he had once considered his other half, his only one, that is, the one he would live for the rest of his life. He wanted someone to talk to, so he dialed Gary. "Liam, what is this habit of calling at night?" he asked in a disgruntled voice. "What happened again?" "Can I sleep over?" asked Liam. "Can I?" Gary replied. "Cynthia's on the clock," he added. The man entered his friend's apartment again. A sad thought flashed through Liam's mind. It's a strange family nest he's got, if he's anxious to get away from it. "Let's go into the living room and tell me what happened," Gary said. Liam recounted what he had seen, that Sharon hadn't even denied that she had a lover. Gary listened to him silently, and then stated, "I always thought she was too posh for you. I used to look at her myself sometimes. You can tell by now, you know. I tried flirting with her, but before you were married. It almost worked once." "What?" Liam couldn't believe his ears. "I mean, how?" he asked. "Oh, don't you start. So what if she did? She rejected me anyway, and you weren't married then, so I thought I'd give it a try. Come on, don't introduce yourself. It's not like I haven't seen the way you look at Cynthia. I get it. You get tired of the old wife, no matter how beautiful she is, you want something new." "And how's that new thing working out for you?" asked Liam. Gary smiled. He clearly didn't sense the sarcasm in his buddy's words. "Not bad at all." "And if Cynthia finds out?" Liam's palms clenched into fists reflexively.
Ha!
"Like she doesn't know." Gary smiled, pleased with himself. She guesses, I think. What will she do? Let her be glad someone married her at all. She's not pretty, and she's in her 30s. You know, go to your Sharon and be glad you have her. Unaware of what he was doing, Liam got up from his chair and walked over to Gary. He looked at him, continuing to smile. What are you doing? Asked Gary. Why are you looking like a bull at a red rag? You don't like what I said? You gotta grow up, buddy. You bastard, Liam grumbled, I'll never set foot in your house again. Calm down. Gary also stood up and patted Liam on the shoulder. You act like a man who whines. It's sickening to watch.
Yeah.
Well, Sharon cheated on you. You can understand her, too. She found a normal man. By the way, he is our competitor. He runs a service too, only downtown. So you also knew everything? Liam's eyes darkened with anger, and you didn't tell? You understand, friend. How would I tell you? I found out a while ago myself. Gary, noticing the look on Liam's face, took a step back. Come on. How do you figure that? I would come and say that Sharon is sleeping with Morgan? He's got a lot of money. You what? Only I knew it would be over quickly. He's married, and he's been married a long time. But he'll cheat once and then he'll be over it. Fuck you, Liam grumbled, with my principles and my views on life, I don't want that. I don't want any of that. That's the way everybody lives, cried Gary, you don't understand. You still think you're better than me? You're no better than me. You just haven't figured it out yet. I don't want to understand. Liam held up his hand, but held it back and put it down. He stood there, breathing heavily, not knowing what to say, where to go. It seemed to him as if his world had collapsed like a house of cards. I'll go, he muttered, we'll deal with the business later, and everything else, too. Go away. Gary sank back into his chair and looked contemptuously at Liam. All night long, Liam drove around town. His favorite music helped him relax. It began to rain. In such weather he felt especially keenly his loneliness, like the hero of some movie who decided to go on a long journey, not knowing where he was going and what he was looking for. After a while he pulled onto a wide highway. There were few cars. And that made him happy. It was important to go faster. And there was no chance of getting into a traffic jam. Over the years of his life in the capital, he never got used to traffic jams. Hours flew by unnoticed. It was as if Liam fell into a light trance. The music, the noise of the rain, the gray sky covered with a pall of clouds, he thought about nothing, worried about nothing, and he was beginning to like his condition. Suddenly he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. It was a car driving in the oncoming lane. It was swerving strangely and country to the side. Liam slowed down. Maybe the driver wasn't feeling well, maybe he needed help. But suddenly the car swerved particularly hard. Now it was hurtling toward Liam. Instinctively, he twisted the wheel as far as it would go. His inertia tossed him sideways. The world suddenly turned upside down, but the music continued to play, calm and soothing. Only he couldn't hear it anymore. Cynthia couldn't believe at first that Liam had been brought into their ICU. Probably just a namesake, a namesake. What was he doing on a country road? He was supposed to be at home with Sharon. But when she saw the patient, she recognized him at once. Liam's condition was quite serious. He had suffered a severe contusion to the brain. Fortunately, the paramedics acted quickly and correctly, and many consequences were avoided. On the other hand, the spinal cord was very badly damaged. The surgery lasted almost 5 hours. No one could say whether Liam would walk or forever remain disabled, confined to a wheelchair. She almost never left his bedside, staying in the hospital for several days at a time. Mr. David, the head doctor, berated Cynthia and demanded that she rest, but Cynthia was adamant. She told Mr. David that Liam was a good friend of hers and that she just couldn't leave him in that situation. Cynthia. Well, you've got to rest. We still need you. And your family needs you. Come on, I'll let you go home tonight, get some sleep, get yourself cleaned up. Your Liam will be all right, said Mr. David, looking at the woman over his glasses. Liam regained consciousness 2 days after surgery. Usually it took longer, but Liam, a strong and young body, coped quickly with the injuries. Only in the movies does a person after a comatose state open his eyes, look around in surprise, and start talking to the people around him. Cynthia always laughed when she saw such scenes. In fact, patients first open their eyes a few times a day, no more, then they begin to respond to speech, to carry out simple commands. Sometimes this process stretches over weeks. Liam started talking on the 5th day. To Cynthia's surprise, he recognized her and called her by name. Cynthia. Yes, it's me, she smiled. What happened to you? Where am I? His voice was hoarse. Cynthia could barely make out the words. You're still in intensive care. Your car overturned, as far as I know. Liam looked up at the ceiling, then shifted his gaze to Cynthia. I don't remember. I remember when I first drove out. And that happens. It's called amnesia. Maybe you'll remember later. All right, you rest. I'll come back later. You can't talk too much yet. She got up and wanted to leave. Cynthia. She leaned over his bunk and looked intently into his eyes. Yes? Is something bothering you? Tell me, what's the matter with me? She thought for a moment, then smiled. You're alive. And that's all that matters. It's hard to say anything yet. Why aren't my legs moving? That was the question she dreaded. She knew full well that Liam would probably never walk again. Unless a miracle happened. But Cynthia did not believe in miracles. Wait a while, we'll see. That's what happens after such serious injuries. Everything will recover, she smiled again. She didn't like lying to patients, nor did she like giving them false hope, but it was even worse to tell the truth to their faces. A person has to prepare for the truth, to approach it in small steps, otherwise they will just drown in their pain. And neither she nor any other doctor will be able to save him. The days passed. Days turned into weeks. Sharon did not come to the hospital even once. Gary dropped by a few times, but didn't dare enter his friend's room, passing packages through his wife. Liam was gradually recovering. But his legs remained immobile and insensitive. Cynthia often came to see him. She knew she was paying more attention to Liam than to the other patients, but she couldn't help it. Gary was unhappy with her behavior, but the woman didn't care. She did what she thought was right. Cynthia was a doctor and used to thinking rationally. There was no such thing as fate. She had become convinced of that in her years in the hospital. Sometimes wonderful, kind people who had done a lot of good die. They die from choking on a cherry pit or falling down the stairs. And drug addicts and alcoholics, who cause their loved ones only grief, survive injuries that are called incompatible with life. Why? She never could answer that question and believed that what happened to Liam was not what he deserved. He spent several weeks in the ICU. He should have been transferred to his room long ago, but Cynthia didn't want to do that. She felt more comfortable with Liam in her care. Why don't you take him home? Mr. David once joked, why, you can take care of him. Maybe I will, she retorted, he's not just a patient. He's my friend. Liam began to realize what had happened to him. The sensation in his legs had never recovered. It was clear to everyone that he would never walk again. But Cynthia was afraid to tell him. To her surprise, Liam himself began the difficult conversation. I won't get back on my feet again, will I? Just tell me honestly. I don't want to hope if there's no hope. Most likely, Liam. But you should never give up hope, she answered honestly. Liam was quiet. Sharon, thank you. For what? She said. Liam seemed to be able to control his feelings. He never once again began to talk to Cynthia about it in the room. He asked that they bring him some dumbbells and started exercising. A little at first, then more and more often. Cynthia noticed the first signs of deep depression in Liam. He stopped working out. Most of the time he would just lie there looking out the window and start talking about death. "I don't want to, I can't anymore. Don't treat me," he would say simply, "let me go." He refused to take the pills. Cynthia fell into despair. She knew that it was unwillingness to fight that ruined more people than improper treatment or misdiagnosis. She had often seen patients who had every chance just give up on the disease and walk away, even though her colleagues, had worked hard to save those people. "Liam, if you give up, it won't work. Do it for your son. A lot depends on you," Cynthia repeated over and over again. But she could see he couldn't believe her. One evening she went to see Liam again. He was looking thoughtfully out the window, as usual. "How are you?" asked Cynthia sympathetically. He slowly turned his head toward her and smiled. "I'm still lying there. Just thinking. I have time to think." "What are you thinking about?" She sat down on the edge of the bunk, and with an automatic movement she adjusted her snow-white hat. "Sharon, tell me, would it have worked out for us? If I had chosen you that night?" The woman was taken aback by the sudden question. She had often thought about it, even as Gary's fiancé, for Liam had liked her very much then. Liam waved his hand toward his nightstand. "Get my purse." "Why?" "Just get it." Cynthia complied. "Open it." She opened her wallet and saw her picture. She remembered that day. One of the best days of her life. They had gone on rides with Liam and Suzanne and eaten ice cream and then got caught in a downpour and hid from the rain, under a sprawling willow tree. "I just want you to know. I fell in love with you, but I hid the truth. I even hid it from myself." "I don't know what to say." Cynthia suddenly found it hard to breathe, as if she were under thick water. "I'm sorry we were so stupid." "I'm sorry." Liam didn't answer. Cynthia stood up, stroked his shoulder, and quietly walked out of the room. She could never forget the conversation. Her quarrels with Gary grew more frequent. He was jealous of Liam and demanded that she not pay so much attention to him. Cynthia suddenly began to realize that she did not love her husband. She respected him, thought he was great, she was even a little afraid of him, but she didn't love him. Liam was moved to a rehab center. On the day she was discharged, Cynthia took an early day off from work. She wandered around the city all day, trying to cope with her feelings. She didn't understand what was happening to her. They never went back to talking about his feelings for her, as if the conversation had never happened. But why did she feel so bad? Why does she feel like she's losing something very important? She has a job, she has Gary, and she's about to finish her dissertation. Why did Liam's words throw her off balance? She didn't know what to do, and she hoped her condition would return to normal on its own. But she couldn't forget his eyes, his gaze, his words, Cynthia's words. Soon Liam was discharged and returned home in a wheelchair. Cynthia never left his side. She believed he would get back on his feet. At the very least, she would do everything to make it happen. She would use all her abilities and connections. Time would tell when that would happen. The main thing is not to lose hope and to persevere toward her goal. Sharon took the news of the divorce calmly, as if she had been waiting for it for a long time. "This is for you." He held out a box of earrings to her. "I thought I would give it to you when you came back. Here you go." She took the box, opened it, and tossed it on the table. "You shouldn't have bothered." They filed for divorce a month later. Liam managed to get joint custody not only of Jose, but also of Suzanne. In fact, however, Jose lived with his father. Sharon took him away rarely, as if the child interfered with her personal life. That was most likely the case. Liam had nothing against that. A son became the only source of joy in his life. The man got back on his feet after all. He turned the business over to Gary and returned to the auto shop where he had worked. Cynthia and Gary divorced. Of course, Liam couldn't tell her about her husband's infidelity. She found out on her own that he had other women. One of them called Cynthia and demanded that she let Gary go free and not try to hold him back with her imaginary illnesses. It turned out that Gary had lied to his mistresses, telling them that Cynthia was terminally ill. He simply could not divorce her, for he is an honorable man who is incapable of betraying his spouse. 6 months have passed since the divorce. On Saturday, as usual, Sharon brought Suzanne and Jose to Liam's house. When Liam opened the door, he noticed that Sharon didn't look well. Shadows had appeared under her eyes, she didn't have her usual bright makeup, not even her hair was shiny like it used to be. "Hi," she smiled at him with her most enchanting smile. "Listen, I was thinking maybe we could spend the weekend together." "Why the honor?" asked Liam. "But we're not strangers," she lowered her lashes. "Remember how good we used to be together?" "Things got bad for you?" Liam grinned. "Personal life isn't working out, yes. You see, I made a mistake. I regret it. He cheated me." "I know," the man replied calmly. "You know, word travels fast. I've been told that your Morgan has no intention of divorcing, that his wife has made scandals with you, that he already has a new mistress, younger, of course." "Do you want to finish me off?" asked Sharon. "I feel bad enough. I've made a lot of mistakes. I don't deny it, but you have to give people second chances." "Liam, well, shall we go?" Cynthia came out of the room. She looked at Sharon in surprise. "Hi. I thought you left." Sharon looked at Cynthia angrily. "Oh, I see. You two are together now. Of course, you've always been like that." "What?" Liam asked in surprise. "You know, Sharon, everyone makes mistakes. I've made mine, and I hope I've corrected mine. I hope you can do the same." "So mistakes," Sharon hissed. "We'll see what happens in a couple of years and which one of us ends up on top." She turned on her heels and ran for the elevator. "What's gotten into her?" wondered Cynthia. "I thought she was doing great." She finally found the man of her dreams, wealthy, with a car and real estate in Europe. What more could she want? "I don't know," Liam smiled at Cynthia. "Life throws up unpredictable bits sometimes." "But why unpredictable? By the way, I should read The Tale of the Fisherman and the Goldfish to Suzanne at bedtime. I hope she doesn't repeat her mother's mistakes."
An amazing story, isn't it? Thank you for listening till the end. I sincerely hope that you truly enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate this video. See you in the comments and in new releases.